as if he was still here physically with us, as he is in your hearts. You would recognize your Papa anywhere. Eric does. He was a big, strong man. He was so big that a lot of people called him Big Guy. He had a full beard and not a whole lot of other hair on his head. His best features, though, were his big blue eyes and his smile. His smile was as much a part of him as his hair or eye color. It was permanent, especially around his beloved grandkids. Your Papa also had a lot of talents. When I was a little girl, Papa would sing me to sleep, and it was the same voice he shared every Sunday at church. That same voice couldn't just sing, it did voices, so many voices. And I'm sure that my love of reading came from sitting next to Papa while he read me Charlotte's Web, and every character had a voice. It didn't stop with books either. Papa could talk for animals. And Faith, although she left, I'm sure you know what Tucker's voice sounds like, just like I remember my dog Gizmo's. Your Papa also loved sports. He would have signed up to coach all your teams, or at least spent hours every weekend shooting hoops or playing catch. And if there weren't sports to watch or practice, you'd probably go for a ride in the car, and Papa would take you to towns you never knew existed, or special spots in nature with amazing views. If the car wouldn't get you there, you would take a bike or walk. Papa loved to take walks. And if you were snowed in, don't worry. Your Papa would take you outside to play in the snow, and he wouldn't just build you an ordinary snowman either. If you asked him to, he would build you a giant baby beluga, because that's what would make you happy. Most importantly, though, your Papa loved you. And if you didn't know, just by all the wonderful things he would do to show you, he would tell you all the time. Every phone call, visit, email, or Facebook post would end with, "I love you," sometimes more than once if you were a teenager and embarrassed to say it back. Because he did love you. And he does love you. And every time you sing, or read, or play, or take a walk, your Papa is with you. So pay close attention, because you may hear a deep voice singing to you at night, or his beard may tickle your cheek from his hug when you're sad. Never forget your Papa, because he is always with you. And don't forget one of the most important things your Papa would teach you. OH.
Thank you for sharing. I love CB, and he loved me. If you feel that way, would you raise your hand? That's what I thought. You know what? In fact, kind of as I talk for the next few minutes, you're probably going to hear me say this a few times. So what I'd like for you to do is, if you hear me say, "I love CB," would you just repeat after me and say it again? And when you hear me say, "And he loved me," would you say that as well? Let's practice this. I love CB. And he loved me. One of my first memories of CB was we had a golf outing here at the church, and Butchie brought CB along. He'd been dating Teresa, and CB comes, and really some of my first thoughts of CB, I was a little intimidated by him because, you know, he's a big guy, and he's got a big personality, and I'm a little guy, and I was just like, oh, but it didn't take long that his big heart and his big love, he's just not going to let me be intimidated or whatever, and he just embraces you and pulls you in, and I mean, it's just so quick that you feel like, this guy's my friend. This guy's my friend. CB and I got to be friends. I love CB. And he loved me. Jeff, kind of as you said, a few things that I just learned from CB in life. And if you pay attention to people like him, you'll learn a lot. And these are some of the things that I learned from CB. He was a person of joy. He loved life. He loved others. He made people happy. When he sang in church, and if you were part of this church, you have to remember CB being right here. And CB didn't just sing. He sang with his whole body. He sang with his whole face, with his soul. I love to watch CB sing because he loved Jesus, and it came out of everything. CB was a person of joy. You know, from CB's generation, and those of you who were, older like me, like CB, you remember a theme song from a TV show called The Mary Tyler Moore. Remember how that went? Who can light up the world with her smile? Who can take a nothing day and certainly make it all, what? Worthwhile. Well, it's you, CB, and you should know it. CB, he worked hard. He accomplished a lot. He made a huge difference in so many ways. But joy was the color of everything he did. He made people around him happy. I love CB. He loved me. CB made everyone around him better. If CB taught you something at any time, would you just nod your head? Yeah. CB taught me that everyone is worth $1 million. I watched how CB treated people, and he hugged them. He listened to them. He gave everybody attention. I would watch CB. Here at church, our worship team shows up pretty early on Sunday mornings to get ready for the worship services. And CB would come in, and when he came in, he would always give everybody attention. He'd talk to them. He'd ask how they were doing. It was always about you. It was about me. But it was never about CB. I think that somewhere along the road, if we're going to be people that make everyone around us better, we've got to get over ourselves. We have just got to get over ourselves, and it's difficult to do. But CB was able to do that because somewhere along the line, he made life not at all about himself, but about everybody else. And he made all of us better. It wasn't just at worship practice, but at church. Around the congregation, he'd make his way around and here and there and talking and asking and just loving people. CB made people around him better. There's an old saying. It goes, when you enter a room, you can take two approaches. The first is, here I am. And the second is, there you are. And he was the second. It was always about the other person. The Bible tells us that we're salt and light, and salt adds flavor, and salt brings out the best, and CB was salt. It's why whenever there was a group of people golfing, I'd always kind of watch, well, where's CB? Because you know what? I want to be with him. Because my day's going to be better if I'm spending part of it with CB. When there be a dinner, when there be a gathering, again, I'm always kind of looking around, well, where's CB? Because I want to be with him. I want to be around him. Maybe it was a selfish thing on my part, because you know why I wanted to be with CB? Because he made my life better. I love CB. He loved me. CB taught us all. He was an educator through and through, and he was always teaching, and even now. Days like today, we ask some of the difficult questions, because CB wasn't old, and he's a good person. Why does cancer and why do things like this happen to people like CB? Because he doesn't deserve it. But as a leader and as a person who spent his whole life teaching and modeling and being out in the front, CB taught us things. Jeff, like what you said, in 9 months he never complained. In 9 months he never lost joy. In 9 months, you know what he did? He taught us. He modeled for us. It's not just words, but he said, even when life is horrible and life is not fair, this is how you live it. This is how you live out grace. This is how, as you said,